Welcome in to all the members present and worldwide. I hereby call this meeting of the Piece of Shit Book Club to order. I'm your dutiful chairman, Des Chesterfield. In each meeting, we do a deep dive into one particularly awful book because it's a book club and that's what you do. You read a book and you discuss it. I guess maybe that's obvious. I don't need to say that. Joining me for today's meeting, we've assembled a load of lovely logophiles. Let's welcome them in. Chip Wilson, welcome, my man.
Hey, happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to you too, Chip. Jane Lynch. Jane,
always
welcome.
A pleasure.
And returning for his 13th consecutive episode, I think that's a record, our resident crustacean expert, Dr. Bo Dashkin, PhD. Welcome in, Doctor. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks for the reminder about Mother's Day. I literally didn't. I'm frantically typing myself a note to send to my mother now. But thank you, Des.
You know what I got my wife for her first Mother's Day? It's apropos.
Oh, what did you get her?
Unlimited crab feast.
How does that work?
What does that mean?
Like you'll go down to the
Oh,
pier
you can eat
anytime, any
crab.
day, and haul them out of the ocean and serve them up for her? Or?
No, it's a fucking dinner. All you can eat crab.
But are
Oh.
you hauling them out of the drink?
It's a dinner at a restaurant I'm paying for.
Oh,
But who's hauling them out of the drink?
The fisherman.
Man, Chip Wilson. But it's a one-time. The way you framed it made it sound like it's kind of a year of unlimited crab all the time.
Well, I'm just getting settled. You know, you started it while I was still running around trying to fix something.
Yeah. Do you want to redo this open? There's a few bumbles there, and then you introduced literally the only person who wasn't on mic or on
Yeah,
camera.
no, you did that deliberately. No, it's all you can eat crab, just like, something we might be discussing today.
Yeah, that's a great segue. So in today's feature book, we take a little breaky from our recent forays into cults, U.S. politics, Holocaust, and we pop in on a quaint Welsh seaside town. Picture this. It's 1976. The Sex Pistols have just released their landmark album. The economy is melting down with 24% inflation, and an unprecedented heat wave has just led to nationwide water rationing. But none of that really matters when an invasion of giant crabs develops a taste for human flesh. Dear book clubbers, if you love books filled with lazy tropes and graphic sexuality, you'll want to stick around for our discussion of Guyan Smith's Night of the Crabs. But before we crack into that, the book reports. Yes, the book report is a regular rundown of news, musings, and happenings in the world of books. And this meeting, because we're under a bit of a time crunch, people have stuff to do, places to be. We're doing it lightning round style. So jump in, boys, but keep it brief.
Wow.
I finally found a piece of shit children's book. In an estate auction, I bought a shitload of old children's books. And buried in with them is the story of Little Black Sambo, which is a very vile characterization of cartoon characterization of African Americans. But what's strange also is that the book is about a little Indian boy, but the way they're stylized is in this like deep South Pickaninny style. So I have that now.
Oh, wonderful!
I'm not sure what to do with it. I don't think I'll be reading it on
to your child
on the podcast or to my child. No, but it's something that I just got in a big pile of books.
It's interesting. Like if some sort of tragedy should befall your entire family now, and they're picking over your belongings, they'd be like, "Chip, turns out he was a massive closet racist."
I found
Starting this child young.
Getting them early.
I'm like one of those weirdos that just like defends that kind of thing.
Otherwise socially liberal, kind of middle of the road.
Yeah. What's funny actually is there's like some subreddit I keep getting pushed now. It's called like Bookshelves Detective. And it's like often people will post like, hey, I'm dating this guy and like I'm in his apartment and like here's his bookshelf. Are there any red flags here?
Interesting.
I think about that with like all the books we've been reading in this club. It's like a 5-alarm fire.
Zooming in on Bo Dashington, I see a bookcase in the back of your video. What would we know from your bookcase if we did bookcase detective on you?
I don't think there's anything interesting in there, to be completely honest with you. I mean, they're just books. They're interesting books, but unfortunately, I don't think there's anything there for comedy material. No, like, noted books.
Your
about
Turner
racism
diaries
or-
are like kept under your bed.
That's locked away. Yeah, that's gone. Yeah, little Black Sambo and the Turner diaries and all that sort of stuff.
It's definitely the defense of an innocent man is, they're just books,
Yeah.
I just like
We'll
the
find
art.
anything interesting in there. Yeah. Yeah. Jane Lynch, anything to add to the lightning round today?
No books, but I was on a subreddit and about shitty books, and then one of these comments that is downvoted heavily really caught my eye, and I really like it. It just says,
Wait, would this be our subreddit about shitty
No,
books?
no,
or
no,
you,
this
you're
was-
cheating on our subreddit.
and this is an actual book
There's a
subreddit.
rival one.
It is, the comment says, "Oh, shut your mouths and read what you like. I didn't know this was such a contemptuous sub."
Contemptuous. That fits this kind of week's theme of like cheesy Britishness with the host. I don't know if you're Des Chesterfield. You sound like a character from Coronation Street with that kind of name. But the book Night of the Crabs is British, very British.
Absolutely. And we covered that in the intro, had you been paying attention.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah. Something that I've read recently, running through my list pretty quick here. This book, The Madness of Believing, by this guy, Josh Owens, came out last month. This guy worked as a camera operator on Alex Jones's InfoWars for about 5 or 6 years. And this is like a tell-all memoir of that time. I mean, it's a flawed book. The author spends a lot of time on introspection, kind of navel gazing, trying to justify his willingness to work for Jones for so long. But I am a longtime info warrior and fan of the former Knowledge Fight podcast, which actually just ended after about 1,200 episodes analyzing Alex Jones just last week. And so this is maybe the most complete account of behind the scenes nonsense at InfoWars available. So if you have an interest in the maniac that is Alex Jones InfoWars, pick it up. Some other books that we're keeping an eye on, and again, lightning round, no holds barred. I'm going through this real quick here. Beyond Life and Death, The Way of True Freedom by Jet Li. I'm reading from the back cover. After a near-death encounter in the 2004 tsunami, Li turned inward, deepening his study of Tibetan Buddhism, dedicating his life to philanthropy. Though he was at the height of his Hollywood career, he fully links his own story and spiritual journey with actionable insights that anyone can apply to live a healthy and happy life. Available, came out last week, May 5th, $27.96 on hardcover, #1 in martial arts biographies.
He has a YouTube channel as well now that he...
Is that right?
Yeah, where he talks about all this stuff.
I will forever love him for the Hong Kong classic Meltdown. It's kind of a send up of Die Hard. Right at the beginning of the movie, there's a bus full of his family and children, mostly children. And there's a bomb on the bus, and the Hong Kong police are trying to defuse the bomb. And you're like, well, of course they're going to defuse it. And then boom, the whole bus just explodes and kills like dozens of children. And then, as the title suggests, Jet Li has a meltdown and just goes like bananas. A great film. We're also keeping an eye on Suicidal Empathy, Dying to Be Kind by a fellow named Gad Saad. #1 bestseller in medical applied philosophy. A reading from the back cover. What happens when a society elevates victimhood to a virtue and decides that punishment is cruel? You get the disease Dr. Gad Saad calls suicidal empathy, and the West may be terminally infected, that's pretty scary. The results are everywhere, from coddling violent criminals to protecting rapists to branding self-defense as toxic behavior. We are witnessing a civilization in rapid decline. Lunatic policies are instituted because we prefer illegal immigrants over our own legal citizens and veterans, permit drug addicts to threaten children's safety in parks, and elevate transgender women above biological women in sports. Suicidal empathy is your wake-up call. Stop ignoring your survival instincts in the name of political correctness. This comes out a couple days, May 12th, $32.12 on hardcover.
Sounds a little bit more like Gad Mad. You know what I mean? Not Gad Sad.
Ba-dun-ching.
Well, it sounds like shit.
Yeah, okay. Last book we're keeping an eye on here. Lightning round. We're going through this quickly. The healing power of holographic sound. Unleash the power of the universe within by Dr. Paul Hubbard, PhD. So a fellow PhD. Number 1 new release in the energy healing category. And reading the blurb here, experience the multidimensional vibrations of higher consciousness and uncover the hidden connections between sound, consciousness, and the fabric of reality. Witness the miraculous impact of holographic sound on your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being. In 1991, having received a profound message from spirit or higher consciousness, Dr. Paul embarked on an exploration into sound healing / therapy, exploring the transformative power and blending of vocal toning / harmonics and crystal singing bowls. Dr. Paul Hubbard, PhD, is a multidimensional sound master and founder of the Institute for Holographic Sound and Inner Balance. Paul integrates his expertise as a Reiki master, crystal power grid worker, and certified hypnotherapist. It's a deal, $12.96 on paperback.
Nice.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I had tuning fork therapy done once. I don't know if that was like a.
Is that similar to holographic sound?
No, it's a sound
crystal
based.
singing bowls?
It's like where they hit tuning forks on something and then they like push to the end and they hold it against parts of your body and the vibrations are supposed to help heal you. Didn't do anything.
It's hokum, or this is like
it's hokum. I don't know.
This is the result of growing up on the island, kind of thing.
Yeah,
like
pretty
this
much.
Is some sort of woo sort of
knowing hippie
therapy,
people
yeah.
and just kind of hanging out. Reiki, tuning fork, and I guess cups as well. But those kind of do things. Kind of, what are those called?
Bagua?
Is that what it's called?
Chinese cupping?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I won't criticize that, but yeah, tuning forks, Reiki, all bullshit.
When I was in Ladakh in northern India years ago, I was staying at this hotel, kind of guest house place, and hanging out with a bunch of people. A couple of them, but one woman in particular was like, "Oh yeah, I've just been like taking this energy healing course. Do you want to go to your, to my room and practice? Because I'm like looking to, practice my skills." And I was kind of like, I was stoned and sort of dismissive. And I was like, I'm going to pass on that, lady. And then like the next morning I was like, oh, I think I passed up a bang. Like
she might've been your twin flame.
Yeah.
Oh,
could have been my twin flame.
Yeah. You could be driving around a Rolls Royce right now.
Yeah, so blew that one, but at the same time may have also dodged a bullet. All right, well, anyways, we're getting off track here. This is lightning round. So goes the book report. What?
Can I speak about the book report? Yep.
Oh, shit. All right. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I actually had a book that I'd recommend that I thought was really good that I was reading over the last week. It's called Wasteland, The Great War and the Origins of Modern Horror by a guy called like an American, I think, by W. Scott Poole. And it's basically the conceit of the book is basically that like horror in 20th century literature and film is drawn from the experience in the trenches in World War I. And he basically, it's really well written, looks at lots of like classic films, classic books, everything from like Kafka to like Fritz Lang, who made, M and Metropolis and famous movies like that. Basically his argument is that the experience with death in the trenches like really informed how they then thought about death in the movies, and not just visually but just in the conceptualization of like the dead body and the fear of it as being like the origins of our interest in vampires and zombies and ghosts and all these other things which are death coming back. But anyway, just a really interesting book fitting in with our theme of horror this week. Interesting. Yeah, no, I heard that was a bad one. That's World War I. Definitely. Yeah, I got a thumbs down. Yeah, big time. All right. So, and my deepest apologies for skipping you. That's why we have Robert's rules. Like you could have called a point of order and inserted yourself into that segment. Anyhow, let us now transition to our feature segment. I shall turn it over to who's doing this, by the way. Point of order. It's me. Okay. I shall turn this over to the lovely Dr. Bo Dashton, PhD, to guide us through Guy M. Smith's Night of the Crabs. Take it away, Doctor. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And yeah, our feature this week is a creature feature. And I think the first thing to say about this book is I don't consider it a piece of shit. I'm not sure if you fellas who read it would agree. Like, this is just a fun book to read and talk about. But the author isn't running some type of scam. He's not in any way deceptive about what the book is. This is pulp fiction trash. at its pulpiest and trashiest, and that's it. I really, really enjoyed this book.
This is the second time you've read it, right?
Yeah, we read it for the blog in the old version of the Piece of Shit Book Club. And the plan for this week was we were going to read a book which is a 600 or 700 page book written by a 15th century German witch hunter. And then when I actually looked at it, I was like, man, fuck this. And we jumped on this as like a quick alternative. But man, it sent me into this, like, I really went down the rabbit hole or the crab hole on this one of like, man, I got hooked on reading these books. There's this really weird trend in the 70s and then in the 80s of these cheap pulp fiction horror books that are all kind of creature feature animal attacks in a genre that, as I learned, is called splatterpunk. So I ended up reading the crabs one. I read one called Slugs by Sean Hudson, Rats by James Herbert, and I'm looking forward to picking up Blowfly or maybe Worms. But they're all this trashy pulp fiction shit. But we're here for the moment to talk about Night of the Crabs, which is the first in a long series of crab books. There's at least half a dozen or so of them. What I thought we'd do this week is kind of go through the plot of the book and then obviously stop at key points of it. So as Des said in the introduction, this book starts in a Welsh town on the coast. And at the beginning, we've got a couple of Welsh teenagers, Ian and Julie, who are, like very many other people in this book, sort of extremely horny, and their only goal is to try to get a bit of nookie. It's a trope I'd never really thought about before, but the book starts as if we don't know what's coming, and we don't know if there's a monster out there. So the first scene is they get horny on the beach, then they go for a swim, maybe the skinny dipping, but then there's a big giant snip. And then Ian realizes he's lost a leg. And then he gets snipped again and loses his other leg. And then he gets snipped and loses his arms and then his head. And that's basically how every crab attack goes. They lose their limbs, then they lose their head. And then the crab eats them.
Can I read a short passage from that scene? It sort of predates the attack, but it's really, I don't know, it struck me as funny. Julie Coles was a strong swimmer too. She even matched Ian for speed. And after 10 minutes or so, there was still a good 50 yards between them. Of course, she had got a good start on him. He increased his efforts, clawing the salt water as he strove to narrow the distance. 10 minutes or so later, he paused. Damn these waves. He couldn't see her. Turn, you fool, turn, he swore inwardly. We're far enough out to sea. Still, she persevered with a direct course. Stupid bitch, he gasped aloud. You'll be out too far.
I was thinking about this. I wanted to read this one too.
He's not wrong. If they've been swimming for over 15 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever, straight out into the ocean.
It's so funny because they're like,
but it's like a tonal change.
They're flirting, they're having a good time, then they go out swimming. It's the first time in the book that she's out of earshot. He's just like, stupid bitch. Thinking about is it like the Bechdel test or something? It's like
right.
The classic Bechdel test is if there's two women who have a conversation about anything other than one of the male characters. And I think the secondary Bechdel test should be how quickly the men resort to just misogynistic insults of the women as soon as they step off off screen.
This book fails on both accounts.
It's the giant crab test.
Misogyny is definitely a theme in this book, and I don't know. Maybe we'll get to that. We'll get to it. Whether that's just a product of the times or this book in specific.
And neck cracking tonal changes. Not to jump ahead, but this isn't the first time that they're just something's happening, and then all of a sudden, boom! It's just like, all right, we're into either misogyny or graphic sexuality or bloody crab attack. But I'm getting ahead of
all three.
Here.
Or all three at once.
Exactly.
But yeah, even the descriptions are so like, I was going to read a quote from the attack scene. Suddenly he staggered back, his own piercing scream muffled by the water as his head went under. He fought to free himself from whatever it was that had a hold on his leg that could only be compared with a pair of giant garden shears with serrated blades. And she's like, well, there goes your only metaphor. But yeah, the crabs kind of, it's snip, snip, snip. And these two are lost to the waves. And then we cut to kind of like our main character, who is a man named Cliff Davenport. I swear I remember that name of that guy having hosted this podcast at one point. But Cliff, he's always referred to as well as Cliff Davenport, which is also great.
It must be like 60 or 70 times throughout the book they use his full name, like every possible opportunity. It's Cliff Davenport.
Cliff Davenport is described as like, he's a senior professor. He's an older man. He's described as being like a statesman with like gray hair and a long mustache, but he hasn't even hit his 40s yet. Like he's in his 30s. And so as part of me was just thinking, holy shit, people aged badly back then.
Yeah, he's just English.
But also like, oh man, this like super old character is like quite a bit younger than me.
But he's also a bit cheeky too, because he told his nephew to have a good old dirty weekend with his girlfriend. So he's not a total square, this guy.
He's the world's foremost sea botanist. And why he's a botanist and not a biologist, I don't actually know, but the book never explains that. Like, I think the author might just have got that one wrong. But Cliff Davenport just immediately knows what's going on at all times. Immediately. Just so the next day, it's where did Ian and his hot date go? Well, they find their clothes on the beach. And then he sees some marks in the sand along the tide lines. And he just immediately knows that we've got a bad case of giant crabs. It's like, what else could have done it?
Yeah, it's that fantastic trope we've seen a million times in movies, books, whatever, where the sort of lone scientist knows exactly what's happening before anyone else, but nobody will believe him.
Yeah.
The Independence Day.
Yeah, Jeff Goldblum.
He knows what's coming.
It's also funny because the first time he finds evidence of them, of course, he's investigating the death of his nephew. But as soon as he finds like the tracks, he's just like, you bastards. You got these giant crabs. And it's like, you know, if he's a marine biologist or sea botanist, I think he'd be like, wow, this is amazing. We got to protect these things. We got to, you know, he'd be so excited about it.
And during this scene as well, this is an important plot point for those who haven't read the book. Jane, I'm assuming you haven't read the book. He just kind of casually mentions that he's just walking past this top secret military base, which has these new pilotless planes. I mean, they're drones, but at the time, I guess they're called pilotless planes. And it's a secret military base that apparently you can just walk into because he does. And the police tell him to go away, but he basically tells them to fuck off. And then they leave him alone because he's Cliff Davenport. Cliff Davenport doesn't take shit from anybody. But file that one away for later. We'll bring that one back.
The British military. I mean, what are they going to do?
He's on good terms with Sir Ronald Bradley at Whitehall. So
that's
one phone call. And
this is Chekhov's top secret military base stuff. So let's just remember that it's in the scene. It's in the background.
Yes.
But he goes back to the pub. What are we going to do with these giant crabs? Goes back to the pub for where he's staying for dinner. And the wench who runs the place doesn't have a table for him. And so she's like, sorry, but you're going to have to sit next to this woman. And you're going to have to eat dinner with a woman, which he's a little bit annoyed about at the beginning. But then he takes a look at her. And this is how the narrative describes her. His eyes looked at this dark-haired petite girl who sipped a tomato juice, a wistful expression on her face. She was wearing a cotton blouse above a tartan skirt, and he saw the outline of her small, firm breasts. It wasn't often these days that he'd noted such things. He put her age at about 25. And she's
Julie
our secondary
Coles.
character,
No,
Patty Jones.
Pat Benson.
Sorry. Yeah, that's the singer. Pat Benson. Jones is the wench. But the one important thing to know about Pat Benson is, by profound and extraordinary coincidence, she just happens to be an amateur crab specialist. Because in her youth, she liked to go down to the beach and study the crabs.
Point of order. If I was going to be
the
fighting
chair recognizes Jane Lynch.
If I was going to be fighting a bunch of giant crabs, I think I'd want more than an amateur, an avid hobbyist at least, like someone that's actually been put in the work, studied. You know,
didn't you hear the description about her small, firm breasts?
Yeah, I think you're confused about Cliff Davenport's priorities here.
She has a slim, perfectly proportioned figure.
They don't waste any time. They start banging pretty much right away. After she suggests they work together to fight the crabs. And this is one of the big themes of the book, is just like really creepy, awkward sex.
They go down to the beach to investigate said giant crabs, and they're under threat of giant man-eating crabs, and then they start banging.
They're in like
On
the
the
dunes
beach?
overlooking the beach, kind of hidden.
That's right.
The first encounter. I think it's at that point. I know you're going to get to the sex, but just before that, I love this quote where I think it's at this point where they're waiting to look for watch the giant crabs come out. No, this is before she goes with him, and she's like, "I'm coming with you. Make no mistake about that." And Cliff goes, "Now look here, said Cliff sternly, grasping her by the shoulders. "This is no job for a woman. Like giant crabs are men's work."
Cliff Davenport. And you have to imagine that Cliff Davenport also just stunk, because earlier in the book, it describes him, well, he's sitting around waiting for the police to call him back so he can get news about his missing nephew. And it describes him smoking an ounce of tobacco a day. Now, I don't know what an ounce of tobacco looks like, but I know what an ounce of pot looks like. And it's a tremendous amount of pot to be smoking in a day. And tobacco is only bulkier than weed. I mean, weed can be kind of compressed. So like, it's got to be just like a mountain of tobacco this guy was hauling on.
Yeah, and he's just like stumbling around the beach, covered, stomping around looking for crab tracks.
Stinking of old-fashioned tobacco.
You got to lay out this first romance scene. It's incredible.
I've got multiple quotes. I'm reading my notes now, trying to determine which quote I should read first. But one of them that I really like, which connects to like inexplicably people often being referred to by their full names rather than just a single name. But after they get going, her fingers were active. Cliff felt that thrilling sensation of his zip being pulled down, her fingers groping inside the open vent, and then the coolest of the night air on his warm moistness. He gasped with pleasure. Pat Benson certainly knew what she was doing.
But what is sexy about opening a man's fly and discovering his warm moistness?
Why is he moist?
Why is he moist?
That's
Yes.
what I don't understand.
The whiteness of her thighs was in itself seductive in the soft moonlight, the darker triangle of soft, fluffy hair between them, seeming to withhold secrets from him. Secrets of men who had lain there, men who had been sexually satisfied beyond their wildest dreams. Cliff rolled in between her open legs. She still had a grip on his hardness. Now she was guiding it down to where she wanted it, bathing it first in her warm river of desire, and then sliding it down further until it disappeared inch by inch into her.
It's such a funny line. Like, every time that I'm about to hook up with a new woman, you know what really turns me on? Thinking about all of the guys that she's pleasured in the past that have enjoyed her.
And it's also just every time it's just immediate penetrative sex.
Yeah.
You notice that? And then it's just no foreplay, straight penetration, and then
Bam.
you're
Right in there.
done. Yeah.
I don't think foreplay existed in the 70s.
That's a
Maybe
good
not
point,
discovered, yeah.
especially in England.
A light spanking, perhaps?
Yes. They also haven't discovered shaving your bush, because every bush is described in intimate, and I do mean intimate detail, and everybody's got one.
I think that's the most graphic sex scene we've come across since we started doing this podcast. Even the Sean Avery hockey book didn't have,
Yeah.
I don't think, anything as graphic.
Yeah. This sex scene also closes with what I think is my favorite line in the whole book, and also it's the end of a chapter. So as soon it's finished the description of them banging, and Cliff Davenport just goes, says, "I'm more than glad I let you come with me tonight," he whispered as he zipped himself up again. "I'm afraid, though, that we must still keep an eye out for those crabs."
Okay.
And then he's not wrong, because immediately after they finish banging,
Yeah.
the what's his name?
Bartholomew.
Bartholomew, yeah, this deaf and dumb beachcomber who is, quote, simple in the head, gets taken out by the giant crabs in extremely graphic fashion. I don't know what's more graphic, the death of Bartholomew or they're banging on the beach.
Being a simpleton is really dangerous in this genre of literature. The simpletons are the first to go.
He has, quote, lopping, shambling gait, a deformed body, long matted hair, and an unkempt beard. And then he's brutally dismembered and eaten by the crabs right after they finish banging. Just as he finishes doing up his zip. Putting away his warm moistness.
drying off.
Oh, yeah.
Um, that Bartholomew is like blind, deaf, as a limp. He's like, when he gets killed by the crabs, they see him, they're up on the dunes. They're looking down. They see Bartholomew alone, looking for stuff. And he's like crawling around on all fours. The way he's described this.
Yeah, like a feral animal.
Yeah, I was thinking about like how if this came out today, or if it was like a movie or something was made today, this would be like the thing that everyone took issue with, because he's like,
why is
this
he
total innocent that is just brutally killed by the crabs?
Why is he crawling around the beach at night? What the hell?
He's a
He's
beach
just
comber.
doing his own thing. Yeah, he's a beach crawler. But the crab, it's worth kind of pointing out. This is the first scene, I think, where we really see the crabs and we see them. And by the way, our main couple are in the dunes watching this happen. They've literally finished banging, and they look down at the beach and see Bartholomew sand crawling along. And then the crabs emerge from the deep. And we get a description of them. And they're basically like, most of them are about the size of sheep. And that's the comparison that comes up like a dozen times in the
Sheep?
book. It's a crab the size of a sheep. Yeah.
I thought they were like
I
the
don't know
size of
why.
cars.
Well, British cars.
The crabs actually, I don't want to ruin this. I don't know if you touch on this later, Bo, but the crabs seem to grow with each appearance in the book. So they're compared to sheep, but then later they're compared to cows. Then they're compared to horses. And then at one point at the end of the book, they're, quote, the size of a fucking house.
Houses are pretty small here. But
why
yeah,
why are farm animals the only comparison?
And a fucking house.
Whales.
And a house.
But they're trying to warn Bartholomew. Like, they're shouting from the dunes after just like, in the refractory period. And they're like, right, you're right, mate. Bartholomew is
But
like,
he's deaf.
because
Jesus.
he's deaf and dumb. He can't hear anything. They come up and just devour him from behind.
Yeah, they snip off his limbs and then eat him. But there's most of the crabs are the size of sheep or cows or whatever. But there's one crab which is just is extra large. It's a really, really big crab, and it's just referred to as the king crab. Just decided that's king crab, and it gets referred to as king crab. But the other, and this is a small point to notice. But the author always described their eyes as glowing redly. I don't know if redly is a word. It's kind of like what was Trump's thing? Bigly, like bigly crabs. Anyway, Bartholomew gets snipped and he gets eaten. Then some fisherman gets snipped as well when he's out to sea. And this is a particularly weird scene because the guy gets snipped. He gets his hand bitten off by a crab as he reaches over the side of his boat. And then he basically goes, well, fuck this. I'm going to die. And he throws himself into the sea because
Sam Owen.
Sam Owens, that's him. He
Yeah,
wants to
respect him.
he wants to die the way he always dreamed he would, like with a mouthful of salt water. And so he jumps into the moistness of the sea. And then of course he gets snipped.
It's established early that the king crab controls all the other crabs and communicates with them. He's their general, and he's the one ordering the attacks and things like that. The description of him says, to quote, "This one was the very personification of evil." Davenport sees this crab and he's like, "This is the most evil fucking thing I've ever seen in my life." This giant
How
crab.
do they know that he's the one controlling all the other crabs?
Cliff Davenport
obvious.
just knows. Yeah.
Okay.
It's described as like literally walking around and pointing with his pincers, giving them directions, bonking them on the shell, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's
Going Patton
Plus-
style.
yeah, it's
Pat
like a
Benson
drill
is
sergeant.
something an amateur crab expert too. So Pat's got a handle on it. But it's clicking, it's pointing, it's saluting, it's commanding.
it's saluting. Yeah. But Cliff Davenport just immediately always knows what's going on. And he's always just kind of chiming in with crab facts of just like jumping into the conversation to tell people these really weird things that are not actual facts. Like, well, of course, crabs always migrate after a moon. So we got to be prepared.
Is that not true?
Crabs always migrate after a full moon.
I have no idea.
I mean,
I feel like
there's
something to do with tides and moons. Yeah. And they maybe they follow the moon. I'm not. Yeah, we could have looked that up, but I don't know. I mean,
we're not okay. We're not ocean botanists or whatever the hell Cliff Davenport is.
Yeah,
true.
Pat
He's the expert here,
Benson.
folks. Yeah, but he just he even knows because of course you might start wondering yourself, what the fuck are these crabs and where do these crabs come from? And Cliff Davenport just inexplicably knows. And there's this one scene where he just starts announcing to people what's going on. It's underwater nuclear experiments that's done it. And there's a colossal crab. I've named him King Crab. Believe you me, he thinks. He's cunning. Bullets can't hurt them. And they're going to be coming back. And next time there'll be an invasion on a much bigger scale, and it will hit one of the towns. Like, how would you know any of that? But for some reason, Cliff Davenport does. He's just that type of guy. But yeah, he calls in the heavies. He calls the government, get some soldiers out here. We got a bad case of crabs. And they sent a guy called Colonel Good, who is one of the more pointless characters. He arrives. He's described as whiskey was the only love in his life and the uppermost thought in his mind. He arrives. He immediately goes to get drunk. He gets drunk. And then the next morning he leaves. And that's it.
Smart man.
His quote is, people want to learn to swim before they start buggering about in the water. Bring back conscription, I say. Teach them all to swim.
But Cliff Davenport was right. The crabs attack, and they attack by the army base. Like many other, like the Jaws movie, there's often, sound is often used to try to like show that something bad's about to happen. Like the famous Jaws, like doo doo, doo doo. But in this book, it's just click, click, clickety click, and so people will just be out, and that's supposed to be what inspires fear in you. Like click, click, clickety click. The crabs attack, and they snip a whole bunch of soldiers. The soldiers go down bravely fighting, but the crabs, this is where we learn the crabs are bulletproof. And that king crab can handle getting a shot even from a machine gun or anything. They come clickety click and they wipe out all the soldiers. The military is not going to solve this problem. And then we get more creepy sex.
Yeah.
Cliff Davenport walks in on, what's her name? Pat Benson.
Pat
Benson.
But he just walks in on her and she's just inexplicably lying naked on her bed masturbating.
Yeah.
Thinking about him.
I don't know if you were going to talk about it later, but Guy Smith got his start writing porn, like softcore porn, submitting letters to magazines and things like that. It was the first thing he did as his first paid writing gig when he was like a banker before he started writing this kind of stuff. So this is like really where his heart is, I think. And I don't know if it's where his skill is, but...
Well, it's also well known that crises make people very horny.
I remember that. We all remember the pandemic.
Yeah. 9/11? Remember jacking off for a week after that.
to Chip's earlier point.
Sorry. I didn't mean to derail us there. This is important.
To Chip's earlier point about how the sex just goes immediately to like hard penetration. This one explicitly says that. He sees her masturbating and he jumps on top of her. She says, "You're in an awful hurry." And she grabs him and helps him to attain immediate penetration. He thrusts madly, unable to hold back any longer. Like he just walked in the room. Like it certainly doesn't sound very nice for her. It sounds rather unpleasant.
Yeah, it's funny when the author just like explicitly
she's already
says
warmed up.
It's immediate penetration.
Well, in addition to writing softcore porn letters, he wrote for years for like firearms magazines. So I don't know if it like
okay,
just
kind of
going off half cocked. Yeah.
Full cocked, I guess.
Full cocked. What happens next? They decide to go looking for the crabs. And so they have a bit of an underwater caper where they decide to swim down a hole to see if there's crabs down there. And yep, there's crabs down there. And then some of the guys get snipped. And they come up with a big plan to kill all the crabs, which is to put a big bomb in the crab caves and then try to trap them all underwater. And so they do that, and it works. Job well done. Everybody can go home, go back to their immediate penetration and their warm moistness, because the crabs have been taken care of. But
one of the odder things about that scene is that like Cliff Davenport insists on diving solo, and all of the other divers as part of this operation are all diving solo. If you're scuba diving, even if you're going down 10 feet on a calm, placid reef on a sunny day, you always go down in pairs. One would think that if you're hunting giant crabs underwater, you might want like a diving buddy to go with you. But Cliff Davenport won't hear it.
And wouldn't the bomb be like quite heavy too? Hard to maneuver?
Yeah, but he's used to maneuvering hard things. Given how frequently it describes his erection, which it does that's a common in these other books I read too. Like there's very frequent descriptions of erections.
Mm-hmm.
But then we randomly change scene. We got a new character whose name is Day Peters, who's an old guy working on the trains. And he basically has been working. He's just about to retire. He's kind of like imagine what is his name? Danny Glover from Lethal Weapon. He's too old for this shit. Too old for this shit. And the weird thing about this character is that he has he doesn't know about the crabs, but he has crab nightmares. He has nightmares about his train falling into the sea and getting eaten by crabs. Bad news for this guy. He's chugging his train along the coast, and there's a giant crab on the tracks. He tries to hit the crab, but the train bounces off the crab and falls into the sea. And everyone on board gets snipped pretty bad. And they send lifeboats to find the survivors, and all the people on the lifeboats get snipped and eaten by crabs too. So much. The
description there of the train falling into the water is, I think, my favorite line in the book. Where he says, amid a pile of falling debris, the train slid into the water like links of sausage being carelessly tossed into a pan.
Tasty. It really adds nothing to the overall book, though. It seems like it was just kind of filler. Like there was no reason that the train needed to derail. There was no reason that this guy needed to have some sort of like train catastrophe crab premonition every night. Waking up just soaked in sweat, screaming next to his wife that, the train's going in.
Well, it sets up like the final act because the crabs, the train is full. There's a bridge going over an estuary. Yeah. And that's sort of when the crabs feast there, then they're all concentrated in this estuary for
I guess it's the setup for the climax, but
you got to think about like the local geography and I don't know. Right. There's a lot of story crafting going on here that might go over your head there, Des.
Mise en scène.
Possible.
Yeah.
I'm not accustomed to reading fine literature like this often.
Yeah, or accustomed to the Welsh coast,
Not either.
Yeah, that basically sets up the final set piece of the final big climactic battle. The Army and the Air Force and the Navy have all come to help, but none of the crabs attack again. And this is when the book kind of gets a bit repetitive and boring because there's only so many times the crabs can crawl out of the water and start snipping people. Like most other horror books, the monster comes at you in different unexpected ways. But here, every single time, it's like, you went in the water and then you got snipped by a crab. The Army, the Navy, the Air Force, they're all going at these crabs full speed, but none of it works. And then Pat Benson, who for some reason is not bothered by what's going on and is reading the newspaper, and she reads a story that says, child drinks weed killer and dies. And she points it out to Cliff Davenport and says how sad it is. But it gives Cliff Davenport an idea. Because unlike this woman, he actually comes up with ideas. They decide that they're going to spray the crabs with poison to try to kill them. But how are they going to do that? Well, thankfully, there's a military base with pilotless planes right beside them, which for some reason haven't been used yet.
She's reading the story, and then he's like, stupid bitch, I got it. And he's like, we'll get him with the pesticides or the herbicide. And he's just like, he's 100% sure that this is going to work. It's back to Independence Day again, where they're going to upload the virus to the alien spaceship and it's 100% going to work. And that's how they're going to wipe them out. There's nothing indicating that this is going to work any better than the countless tank shells, bombs, heavy artillery that they've used on the crabs previously. But
the crabs are immune to fire as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We forgot that fire doesn't work.
But to be fair, on coming up with the idea, like Pat Benson is only an amateur when it comes to crabs. So it's consistent at least.
She's no sea botanist. She's also a woman. So yeah. But yeah, so they spray the crabs with poison and it just kind of works, I guess. It annoys the crabs and they don't like it. So they start to leave. And as they go, the king crab raises his claw, a gesture of defiance, waving at them, an expression of unbelievable malignance. He might be thwarted, but he refused to concede. He moved, scarcely able to drag himself down to the edge of the water. Then he was gone, with scarcely a ripple to show that they had ever been there. And someone asks, probably Pat Benson, someone stupid, asks like where they went. And Cliff Davenport postulates that there's how there's secret elephant burial grounds in Africa or secret elephant graveyards. He's like, well, there must be one for the crabs too. And that's where they've gone. That's where they've gone to die.
It's the stupidest ending. I mean, I guess they're intentionally setting it up for the load of sequels that came after this first book, but there's no indication that this herbicide was effective in killing the crabs, but they're celebrating like they just defeated the Nazis, and it's like a sure thing that they've all been wiped out. But not a single dead crab ends up washed up on the beach. They don't see any die in front of them. They'd all just kind of, as you say, retreat back into the murky deep.
Why didn't they use crabicide instead?
Like when you get the itch, like down below.
Oh, I was wondering how long it would take for us to make
For a crab joke?
Oh,
I could have done
with all
better.
the sex in this.
Nix, I think, is the product.
I wouldn't know.
I'm sure you know better than I do.
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
Sorry, you were going to say something, Bo?
No, I was just jumping on Dez's comment about how this is the greatest thing since beating the Nazis. It's bigger than that. Cliff Davenport even says that the king crab is the most cunning enemy the world has ever met.
I love that line. He's so convinced that this crab is brilliant. Like it's Napoleon. I love the last line of the book as well. You know, they're resting. Cliff and Pat are riding off into the sunset. I think they're going to get married. And it goes, I wonder, Pat mused, I wonder what lies out there deep down on the seabed. Cliff dropped his left hand to her thigh and squeezed it gently. Perhaps it's better not to know, he replied. The secrets of the deep are better left undisturbed. Which is such a funny concluding line for a marine biologist.
Yeah. Sea botanist.
Oh, sorry, sea botanist. I apologize.
What's going on down there, Cliff? I don't fucking know.
Time for a career pivot.
Yeah. I love how, like, one thing I think is really funny about this book, but it's the same about all these types of books, is how extremely parochial it is. Like, the world doesn't care that there's giant crabs crawling out of the sea attacking this Welsh coastal town. Like, there's not reporters showing up. There's not, it's not a major international, like, nobody really cares. And the public are extremely fickle about it. Like, they know there's giant crabs, but they still want to go swimming and stuff like that. It's
a trope of like a sort of a closed circle trope where it exists in this small isolated island, and there's no real world beyond that. They do allude to the fact that it's in the newspapers in London, but nobody else seems to be showing up. It's kind of a bit like, you ever see Roadhouse, that fantastic movie from the 80s, where there's like open warfare going on, explosions, killings, just like wanton violence, but the police never show up. It kind of just exists in this kind of alternate universe where, it's isolated from the outside world and nobody else really cares.
Whenever there's a 4-hour break between giant crab attacks in the town, it's like they call them holiday makers come back.
Yeah.
Everyone's immediately back on the beach.
It's great. Yeah, nobody cares about the crabs. Yeah.
But it's such a fun read. Like, I had such a good time with it. And this guy is like kind of like a legend, I guess, of British pulp horror.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to go into his like career a little bit otherwise, but
let's pivot to that. He's the first thing to note is that he was British pipe smoking champion. I'm sure you guys saw that. And
I actually didn't see that.
No,
how many ounces a day is that?
I was assuming it was a pun or something.
No, because if you look at photos of him, there's like tons of him just puffing away on a pipe, just like looking stinky as all hell.
Yeah, he looks like a guy, like if you ever seen a picture of him even without a pipe, he looks like the kind of guy who like sits around on his own in his dank like office smoking a pipe and writing softcore porn. He just fits that image to a T. I think this was the one that made him famous, but he would just churn out books constantly, and he got onto this like creature feature theme. He wrote a book called Snakes and one called Alligators, Bats, Carnivores, Locusts, just all this type of stuff. But the best title of any book he wrote is he wrote a book called The Sucking Pit, which if we ever want to return to this genre, we should definitely.
Sounds enjoyable.
It is actually about a woman who's becomes hypersexualized, and she sucks men. She doesn't suck on them, but she kind of sucks them off into this giant pit, and the pit kind of sucks them off into hell.
Okay. That's a lot of sucking off. Okay.
There's a lot of sucking off in that book. Yeah.
You might say it sucks. Yeah.
There we go.
You say that's his best. He also did very early. He wrote into magazines. He wrote short letters that were like sexy confessionals and things. This is like, on the pornography side of his career. And then later he did this series of serialized magazines. Sexy Confessions of a Window Cleaner is one of them. I thought that was a pretty good title. It's all sexy confessions. You got sexy confessions of a bank clerk, sexy confessions of a secretary, and so on and so forth. But curious about that window cleaner one.
Saw some dirty stuff, or he just wanks on the windows.
I think he just wanks.
No, he cleans them.
Well, he
wanks
wanks on them, then he cleans them.
That's
It's the perfect scam.
It's interesting too because in the last couple years, he was embezzled by a former cleaning woman. So I don't know if the two are.
He passed away. He died in 2020.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right. But she was
Yeah.
she was prosecuted after his death in
Oh, I see.
2022 because this cleaning lady sucked some of his money off.
Hmm.
He looks like kind of like a working class British pervert, like the kind of guy who's into wife swapping or like, what do they call it over there? Dogging?
Dogging is
Dr.
when
Dashington?
you have dogs that fight. Dogging is like training your dogs to fight each other.
Well, what's the one where you're banging in public beside the highway then?
I honestly don't know. Grabbing. Yeah, it's grabbing.
No, I got it right. Dogging is banging in public. You're our resident UK expert. You're supposed to know these things.
Dogging?
Yeah, dogging. It's very popular. Like you go to like a car park or like a wooded area or like a lay-by, and it's sort of like exhibition,ism, and then other people watch you. So there's like a voyeuristic component to it as well.
You're describing it like you'd see this like guaranteed on a 3-day trip to England.
100%. Yeah, I think it's very popular. I mean, I don't.
Okay,
it may have
very
fallen out
popular.
of fashion, but like
It's just kind of gone the way of the traditional pub culture.
exactly
Kind of falling out of fashion a little bit, sadly.
Where's England gone?
Yeah. Anyway, I can't. I don't know. I don't have a lot to say about dogging women by the roadside on British roadsides.
He did die of COVID, but not just COVID, but a UTI. I didn't even know like a man could get a UTI.
I mean, when you're like 80, you can get anything,
Yeah.
I think.
Especially if you're smoking an ounce of tobacco a day and you've got COVID.
And you're dogging.
Guyan Smith, amateur softcore porn writer and enthusiastic dogger, allegedly taken from us too soon. But I went into kind of a deep dive on this literature because I found literature, it's a generous term, on these books because I found it so, as Chip said, it was so fun reading this book that I actually read the second Crabs book by Guyan Smith and his series of many books. Killer Crabs is the title. And I can tell you that be very glad you didn't read this one because this one is not fun. There's a lot of just straight up rape in this book, in the second one.
By crabs or by men?
By men. Thankfully not the crabs. But it's like that type of like what I think of as like James Bond rape. Like if you ever watch the old Sean Connery movies, he basically just, it's like women say no, but then you keep forcing them. You literally grab them and hold them and force yourself on them. And then they suddenly realize they really like it. And there's a lot of that.
They hadn't invented consent yet.
No. Science hadn't discovered consent. It's basically inexplicably the crabs show up in Australia, and Cliff Davenport says, "Just as I suspected." And good news, Cliff Davenport is back. And they realize that the big twist at the end is the king crab is actually the queen crab, and she's the one laying eggs all over the place.
Oh,
They lure them onto an island. They poison them again or fight them with fire. But then it's the same thing. The queen kind of crawls away so that she can come back in book 3.
well, I mean, despite all the rape, that's pretty progressive, I suppose.
Oh yeah,
We should have seen it coming the whole time, though.
Having a matriarchy.
yeah.
Because when you go crabbing, those are the ones that you got to throw back. You always got to toss back the lady crabs.
That's right.
What about when you go dogging?
When you go dogging, I don't know. I think you keep the ladies.
If that's what you're into, yeah, I guess. I also read like the front cover of Night of the Crabs says, "In the tradition of the rats," which is referring to a book called The Rats by James Herbert. And so I actually dived into that one as well. And I'd never heard of it, but this guy is like one of the best-selling horror authors of all time. And his The Rats book, like he sold like 60 million books or something insane. And his book, The Rats, basically was an sensation when it came out in the 70s. And it's basically about London being attacked by gigantic sewer rats. There's not really much more to say than that. There's also rape in that book, which seems to be a bit of a theme in those books. And I also read a book called Slugs, which also has rape in it. And unfortunately, that one has slug rape, people getting raped by slugs. And so that's when I decided, I think I've had more than enough of these books, and I shall no longer read any of them.
You were so excited about like, hey, this is an awesome genre to just have fun with.
It sounds like you're really burned out on it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the kind of, I mean, same. So I think for like when I watch like old cheesy horror movies or something like that, it's like all the sexual assault is like, I can't stomach this, you know, like, but there's like the fun gore and cheesy stuff. You're like, oh, that's all in pretty bad taste.
But after reading all these books, I drew up a list of what I kind of think are kind of like some of the guiding principles if you want to write a 1970s misogynistic creature feature about your animal of choice.
I mean, I heard there's a lot of money in it. That might be the scam that we're looking for.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, that's how Guy and Smith was buying his ounce of tobacco per day. Tobacco's not cheap these days.
Although back then,
the protagonist,
affordable. The
protagonist in all of these books is obviously always a man, but it's always a man with really solid erections. In all of these books, the erection is always described as being extremely hard, but the erection is only for one specific lady. He doesn't have erections for everybody.
That's
it's
true.
For one lady who is always surprised when she touches his dick at how hard it is.
Let's be clear here. No man with a limp dick has ever saved the world.
Yeah. No, you might be right about that, I think.
Maybe it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Promiscuous women die, obviously. If they sleep with more than one person, they all die pretty quickly. So do simpletons and homeless people and vagrants. They're always the first to go in like every one of these books.
Rats opens with like the death of a vagrant just getting completely overrun.
Did you read it?
No, I'm just looking at the summary online.
You know, in a cruel world, that is sort of realistic.
Yeah, maybe.
In a way. They're not writing it that, they're not really deliberately making any commentary there, but it's a...
No, the Rats opens with Rats kind of a bummer as well, because it opens with the story of like another kind of trope in these books is that people who suffer have to have a reason for why they're suffering so that you don't feel sorry for them. Because if you feel sorry for them, then you're not going to enjoy the book. So the vagrant who dies at the beginning is a gay dude who's basically thrown his life away by being gay. And because he's gay, he's now homeless and everybody hates him.
And an alcoholic.
And he's an alcoholic, and then he gets ripped apart by rats. And so at the time, I think it maybe would have been seen as like, well, yeah, well, that'll learn him or something like that. Yeah. But you read it now, yeah.
Yeah, that's 1974 logic.
He was a sodomite.
Yeah, exactly. The women all have gigantic bushes, and they talk about their moistness too much. Sorry.
Can I ask though? I just want to.
Sorry.
From Night of the Crabs, what did Bartholomew do wrong?
He's a simpleton.
Just for being a simpleton. Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
It was
crawling through the sand.
I guess, yeah, because it was still actually kind of like late eugenics kind of mentalities and things. Yeah.
He wasn't a contributing member of society.
Yeah. I gotta take it back.
Because they even say in the book, it's like, we'd rather not have him around, but he doesn't really hurt anyone, so we can't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and obviously the other things are like the public needs to be very fickle. In all of these books, the public never reacts to the fact there's rats ripping people apart or slugs crawling up people and crawling inside them. Anyone who gets drunk. So the protagonist has to drink and drink a lot, but not get drunk. If they get drunk, then that means they're sinful and they get ripped apart by the crabs or slugs or whatever. There's always a swarm,
most of these books follow this sort of the trope of the lone professor who has to convince everyone that there's this crisis, and then he has this revelation at the end, the sort of grand solution.
Yeah, except in the Rats book, it's a school teacher who sees the whole thing play out when, because he sees some of his kids get bitten by the rats. And in the book, if you get bitten by a rat, you catch this disease and die in horrible agony. But it's okay because the kids who get attacked are shitty kids who are lippy to him, and they're a bit cheeky. So it's okay. You don't feel sorry for them.
I believe it. I mean, probably a bunch of sort of those kind of aggressive chav kids, with ASBO kind of issues.
Yeah, like when there's a 13-year-old that's just swearing like a sailor on the bus,
Exactly.
Yeah, who hasn't fantasized about a kid like that getting torn apart by rats or slugs or giant crabs, So.
The swarm of animals always has a clear leader. So there's like a king crab, there's a queen rat, there's a gigantic evil slug. That's one of the other one. And of course, ambiguous ends to allow for endless sequels, but like really creepy sex. They've all got really, really unsexy, creepy sex, talking about moistness and dogging and all sorts of awful stuff.
Do you think that there's any sort of political or cultural commentary within these books? Or is it really just kind of shock horror, slightly cheeky, kind of tongue in cheek, just for fun, for blue collar kind of masses?
Yeah, no, I think it's just Pulp Fiction.
Back when books were books.
Back when books were books. Like, I'm a big fan of when books and movies, like you think about a movie like Dawn of the Dead, which is on the face of it about zombies, but is a commentary about like consumerism and does it really well. This book is not doing anything like that. There's no commentary. Right. It's not, the crabs are not a metaphor for communism or capitalism or feminism. Maybe it is actually for a metaphor. For
immigrants.
Immigrants. Although the invading monsters are always immigrants. They're always from somewhere else.
Right.
But
no, there's no.
They're from deep under the sea. I don't think the crabs, the only like light social commentary is they like persistent, like, oh, the government's incompetent or something, but that's just hardly social commentary.
Yeah. Does it capture sort of a pessimism about UK society and collapsing standards, or it's just escapist?
I think it's purely escapist.
A lot of these books came out around the time of Thatcher and stuff like that, when things were pretty bleak. But yeah, I don't think it touches on any of that.
Well, you know what? At the end of the book, there's a ad for his upcoming book that's something about truckers and like the secret lives of truckers. It says like learn about the wild lives of truckers as seen in recent popular hit songs. And he's talking about that Convoy song from 1975.
That was a hit song.
It was a hit song. It's just a stupid like comedy song. So I kind of think that a guy like this just writes about anything. Like he heard a song on the radio and he's like, I'm going to do a fun little story about that. I don't think there's any, there's like no sociopolitical motivations or anything.
He also wrote for Disney. I forgot to mention that before. He wrote like Sleeping Beauty and Snow White and the Seven Dwarves and stuff. I think just like the book versions, not the original. Obviously.
I have this Truckers in front of me. So the Truckers, the Black Knights. For the men in the big trucks, right. Life is a hard grind of endless roads and insatiable women. Whether behind the wheels of their lorries driving dangerous loads or valuable shipments, trying to outsmart rivals and the companies that seek to exploit them, the world of the truckers is a lonely savage and always exciting. So yeah, you might be right. This was a time when Burt Reynolds was king, Smokey and the Band. It was like turning it up, or it was burning it up at the box office, and he's just like trucks is where it's at. Lorries.
The author, like he'd hear a jingle in a commercial and just like run straight to the typewriter. You know what? Speaking of music, I've been doing music pairings for my readings for the book club. The last few books we've read, I try to find some music that is like of the era and like thematically related. For example, Boy in the Striped Pajamas. I listened to Wagner the whole time.
Wagner, yeah.
But for this one, I did Brian Eno. What was it? Another Green World. So I had that soundtrack on the whole time reading this. It was awesome. So
I'll have to listen to that. I mean, Music for Airports is one of my favorite ambient albums. It's terrific.
Kind of fun when you pick out a book from an era to try and like do a bunch of music pairings of that time. Just totally immerse yourself in the world of a man who just picked up Night of the Crabs off the shelf and is just going to read it alone, maybe get a little horny, get a little excited, get a little scared. So that's...
Wait, your music is for the reader, not for the characters or the setting of the book? So it's some sort of meta exercise where you're imagining what a reader of this book might listen to while they read the book?
Yeah.
What the characters would listen to?
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Like for Twin Flames, I was listening to, was it Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros?
That's funny.
Well, I don't know that a child reading Boy in the Striped Pajamas is going to listen to Wagner. He's going to be listening to
some might.
Whatever 12-year-olds listen to. Britney Spears.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not always consistent, but I try to find something.
All right, well, I'll give that a thought the next time we read a book for the book club. Well, anything else that we wanted to touch on today? This has been a really interesting discussion.
Yeah, no, not keen to go off and do some more reading about dogging and finding out where it happens in my neighborhood, but no thoughts other than that.
Speaking of which, how is your dog these days?
You talking about my wife?
Okay.
Yikes. It's Mother's Day.
Gosh, goodness. Holy macaroni.
My actual dog.
Yeah, your
He's,
dog.
He's doing pretty good. He's chilling. Trying to teach him to do these little backflips. He like does these like jumps and like spins around in the air. So I'm trying to get him to do like a jump and spin in the air, like a little backflip. He's almost doing it.
Nice.
All right. Well, I want to thank the esteemed Dr. Bo Dashton, PhD crustacean expert, for leading us through that insightful discussion of our book this week. That was Guy N. Smith's Night of the Crabs. I also want to thank all of the other book club members who attended today. Chip Wilson, thank you so much for your contributions. Jane Lynch, thank you for your service. I am your esteemed chair, Des Chesterfield, inviting you to join us fortnightly for a new book club meeting released across all major platforms. You can visit our website, posbookclub.com. We just released 80 old book reviews from the vault, so check that out. They're online right now. We are on Reddit at our Piece of Shit Book Club. Otherwise, check us out on, I don't know, what, YouTube, TikTok, whatever. It's all coming together. It's all exciting stuff. But until next time, hang in there. I love you. You're beautiful. Thank you so much for being a book club patron. We'll see you next time. Good night.